Hi, welcome to another episode of Creative Spark. I'm joined today by Alex and Gabi, and we're going to be discussing all about first-time facilitators and what you need to know before taking the leap.
Creative Spark. Episode 7. First-time facilitators, what you need to know.
So let's start by getting to know Gabi a little bit. So Gabi, do you want to tell us about yourself?
Yeah, I feel like I do this so often now. I introduce myself like 4 times a day, and at some point I'm like, oh, who am I? My name is Gabi. I come from Bulgaria, and I am an actor and a facilitator and a producer. And I can keep like saying things that I am for years.
All the hats, yeah.
Yeah.
And how long have you been a facilitator?
I started working as a facilitator September 2023 for Moving Waves. But I was just thinking that I have been facilitating my whole life because I did a lot of volunteering back at home. So I always worked with people and with kids. We worked with orphanages and also young people and youth organisations. And I've kind of always naturally done it, but for a living since September.
Mm-hmm. And
Nice.
how long have you been a facilitator for? Putting you both on the spot.
Again, like it's been the most regular since September, but before that, I actually don't
'cause you
know.
both joined
We
at the same
joined
time.
here at the same time,
quick.
but before that, I can't remember. I did like dipped in and out of it for quite a while back, even when I was in like 6th form. So when I was, however old I was, 14 to 16. I was doing like assisting
Right,
the
yeah.
facilitator. And yeah, I don't know is the answer. On and
yeah.
off for
Long.
like since then, I guess. Yeah.
So I think this is really interesting, actually. This is really great because you're both quite fresh to it in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons I think you'd be perfect to discuss this topic today with. So coming into it in September, let's say, I know you've both been doing it on and off beforehand in different capacities. What would you say, what did you expect and what has been different to what you expected since joining the world of creative work and facilitation?
So many things I thought I was going to be better at, and so many things I thought I was going to be so bad at, and then I just wasn't. I always thought I was going to be good with flexibility and being open and being just like, let's see how the session goes, and then I will navigate from there. And I have improved in that because sometimes I'm just like, I go in and I say, I have this plan and I need to get through everything and I have to teach these kids something. And then 5 minutes in and I'm like, oh, today is not the day for that. You know, it's okay to just go with the people that, I mean, you're supposed to go with the people that you're facilitating. And sometimes your plan will go to waste, and that's okay as long as you do what they need.
It's all about thinking on your feet, isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
I thought I was going to be good at that, but then I thought, oh, I need to be a lot better at that. What about you?
Similar. There were things I thought I was going to be great at. I thought I was going to have the you know that look that some teachers can give you where you just shut up, like where you don't you don't have to say stop talking, but there's a look. I don't have that look, but I thought I might.
Yeah.
I was like going in the first time, or like I don't even know if it was the first time, but at some point going, oh yeah, I'm gonna be the one that just they give them the look and then that's it. And I tried it, and just they carried on forever. And it's just like, oh, okay, I'm not that one.
Yeah, I think that is actually the biggest challenge. I mean, I've had it as well when I first started. I thought, I'll just make the best plan, I'll be the best teacher, I'll create the best relationship. I had all these like ambitious ideas of what it'd be like. And then I thought, how difficult can it be, like, maintaining their engagement if I have the best games? And then you find yourself in the room, and there's all these different moods to balance on the day and all the different dynamics. And you just realize you can't make yourself heard, like, unless you find the strategies and unless you actually plan for the behavior management.
Yeah.
And I think, in the last 8 years or so of working with people who are doing this, that is always number one challenge, actually, the behavior management. That it takes, you do need to know, I think, some basics. You need to have a foundation of like, okay, how do I control the class? not in a controlling way, because, you know, we also want to leave space for creativity and expression. But how do I control it for safety and for the smooth running of the lesson and just making sure everybody's making the most out of it? I mean, we do cover a lot about that in the course that we've done for this specific reason. But yeah, I do think that it's that's something that people should underestimate before they take the leap.
Absolutely. Now that you said it, that makes me feel a lot better as well, because I do struggle with authority. That's one thing I thought, I'm going to be, they'll listen to me.
Yeah. No.
So why wouldn't they? And then they just don't sometimes. And it's finding this ground, because I am not their regular teacher, you know, I'm not giving them the same content, and they do see this as I had this stand-up comedy, it was the first club that I did, and, you know, they were laughing, they were having fun. I was like, okay, like, let's move on, and trying to, like, calm them down. And they were like, but miss, we're having fun, isn't that the point of comedy? And I was like, yeah, it was clever, and I was like, I don't know how to come back from this. But yeah, it is finding the authority and the right voice to make it work, but also make it fun.
Yeah, I think you can definitely be a very fun facilitator and have the best relationship with a group, but also have that authority, just have the boundaries set, and just knowing that, like, they know, like, where the boundaries are. I think a lot of the times they test the water as well when working with children. Obviously, working with, you know, care home residents or adults is a whole different ball game there. It's not so much about behavior management, it's more about lots of other things. But yeah, I think it's a lot to think about there. And to someone, let's say, who's thinking of starting this career or, you know, joining the world of facilitation as such, what would you say are some things that you wish you knew before you started?
That everyone needs to be so much more observant than you'd think. I think covering so much safeguarding like we've done, and also I did another safeguarding course after this, and I was like, God, I am responsible for these people in this, you know, frame of time, and I need to be noticing everything, and everything they say means different things. The other day it happened, it was the last class of term, I think. There was a kid there was a boy who's constantly going around and kissing all the girls and hugging them, and they were crying and screaming because they were like, we said no, we don't want him to do this. So I ended up teaching like a 7-year-old consent in the class, and I was like, you know, if they say no, that's a no, and it's enough. And it was like, what am I doing here? I'm supposed to be leading a drama set, a workshop, and then I'm teaching someone about consent. But yeah, it is really like, know that you're more than just their 1 hour entertainment.
Yeah, it's all part of it, isn't it? Part of their education and part of, you know, the skills development that we're installing through these workshops. It's also knowing about consent, for example, if it's needed at that moment, and yeah, you know, covering everything.
Yeah, I think just knowing that I think I've probably mentioned this before, but just knowing that it's probably not going to go how you planned it to go, like, and that's okay. You don't need to stress about that. That is part of the gig. Like, that is, that's I think the sign of someone that has been doing it for a while compared to someone who hasn't been doing it for a while would be the ability to adapt their plan to whatever the circumstances are. I'm sure I've mentioned that before, but that's like the main one that I definitely didn't know before I started, and now it is the most crystal clear thing.
Agreed.
And what would you say are the pros and cons? You know, everything has pros and cons. So what would you say is something that's really good about being a facilitator, something you really enjoy maybe, or something that you really have learned and have, you know, discovered through this journey? And what would you say are the cons? Anything that, you know, has either disappointed your expectations or not quite what you expected, something, you know, pros and cons?
Yeah. I think for me it's that the highs are really high. Like, when it's going well, it's the best. But also when it's not, it's like there'll be kids crying, or like there'll be something which is obviously just awful, and then you can leave a session going, well, like, what have I done? What am I doing? Like, all that kind of thing. So it's like you don't get one I've not had a session where I've walked out and gone, you know, that was fine.
It's always
It's always flown by because it has gone usually well. Like I'm not going like, oh, it's sometimes you know, it's 50-50. Sometimes they're awful. Like no, very occasionally.
Yeah.
But like those ones you do remember them, and obviously
it's a
not
constant
like,
learning experience.
yeah. And so those are the pros and cons. The great moments are great, but the not so great moments are like, but then you learn from it. Yeah.
I think what's really important with that actually is always having that self-reflection and always having, you know, the when things do work well, just take notes and mental notes or write them down, whatever works for you. So you know that worked well, whether it's like specific children that worked well with X, Y, Z, that didn't work with that person, this worked instead. Or they really enjoyed this, you know, anything you tried out that worked. And any good, you know, whenever you get a compliment or good feedback, whether it's from the children, from the parents, from the teachers, just write it down for those lows, you know, for those bad times. So you can always refer back to it, I think. And yeah, I'm talking about the course, but again, there is a part in the course where I covered that, because I do think it's really important to know what works and do that reflection, and also have a reference for when things go bad and they don't go on plan, to be like, okay, I'm not that bad because, you know, so-and-so said they love my class, or whatever type of feedback you get that's positive. I think that's really important. And remembering as well that it's a constant learning experience, and sometimes it comes down to dynamics in the group and the mood on the day, and it's not always personal as well. But at the same time, it's a personal learning experience, which we should always be learning from.
I'm gonna start with the cons, just end on a good one. I think it's a job that you take home with you, or like maybe it's me and I'm doing the wrong thing, but you know, sometimes you do a 9 to 5 and you know, you leave work at work. But I think when you work with kids or like with elderly people, it stays with you. I think about things that I've done. It's the self-reflection bit as well. I think about what went wrong, what went really well, is there something I can do better? It's just constantly thinking and considering things outside of the class, obviously, and a lot of preparation goes into it. So I think, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily call it like the biggest con of all times. It's not the worst thing, but it's not, again, it's not a 1 hour entertainment. It's not just something that you do randomly on a random Wednesday. A lot of thought goes into it. Also, a lot of fun goes into it. Like the pros are so many more. Like the joy every time, even if things go wrong, the joy of it. I mean, as actors, as creative people especially, we get to play games as facilitators. We get to play games with kids or like with elderly people. How cool is that? We get to stay in touch with our inner children, and we get to not forget that. And how special is that? And I'm so inspired by all the people that have come into my life, you know, because of Moving Waves and the facilitation, all the elderly people that I've met, all the stories. Oh my God, I write about it all the time, and it feeds into my life as an artist, as a person, and working with kids just brings me so much joy. And I've always wanted to be that teacher or that facilitator that I never had when I was younger. Someone to support me and to see me
have
for
that
who
drive.
I am. All my teachers told me I shouldn't be an actor.
Did
and
they?
I should do math. I had great teachers, but also they were
so
these teachers.
No,
are
I
like,
had those
you
ones.
should do science and stuff. And I was like, I'm just not built for it.
I had a teacher telling me, but you're such a good student, why would you go in the arts? And like that's such a mind-blowing like thing to say to a child, because it's installing this idea of like, well, if you're a good student or if you're good at like whatever you are, the thing you're good at, you shouldn't be in the arts, because the arts are for people who are not good students or not good at things, which I think is exactly the opposite. Because you need a lot of like emotional intelligence, a lot of like
discipline.
It's so many skills to go into the arts. But I think it's I do definitely agree. It's very inspiring to be able to do this work and be able to inspire other people through the arts and show them the skills that come from it and the skills you need for it. You know, it's it's like, it leaves me speechless how powerful it is. So I think, how do you get into it?
As in, how do you get into facilitating in general? Okay,
Yeah.
cool. I thought you meant just like how do you get in? How do you get into the zone? Like how do you get in? How do you get like mentally there? Oh, I mean, for me, it was. The first place I started was going to help out at the place that I went to when I was that age, by staying in touch with the teachers I had and stuff like that, and kind of shoehorning my own way in there and just messaging and being like, hey, any jobs going? Because there was already a foundation of a connection there. They knew that, I'd gone off to drama school and whatever, and so there was an instant like, oh, okay, so he's at a certain standard, we know who he is. Obviously, you're going to choose to work with people you know and like over people you don't know yet, when you know there's a standard. So for me, it was that was my first like foot on the rung, I guess. And then and then once you've got the initial experience, then you can go off and message other places like here. That was it for me. That was how I got into it.
Yeah, I think it's really useful to say just to share your journey, because there is no like workbook on it. There is no guideline on how to become a facilitator. I kind of just naturally started doing it when I was younger, and through youth organisations, and I was working mainly with people my age back then and doing team buildings or facilitating. And then I did a drama degree, which also embedded in the curriculum we had. One of the terms was applied theatre. So some people were working with like adults with disabilities. We were working with like 55 plus theatre group, which was amazing. And so it was embedded in what we were doing. And then I was like, okay, there is something in there for me. And that's how I knew that I could do it, and I really liked it. And then I did Moving Waves. But I feel like if you didn't have a drama degree, because not necessarily everyone does, doing a course with Moving Waves potentially, or any other courses, and just listening and seeing how other people do it, maybe like you, asking to be in the room. Also, like, if it's just kids, it's difficult to get into a room. It's the whole DBS checked kind of thing, but there are ways. Maybe you know best.
I was about to flip it back onto you then and go, like, as someone who brings people into it, is there, like, if someone hadn't had the the first foundation of experience, whatever it is, in their first one, how difficult would it be to hire someone that hadn't had experience?
Well, I think for me, obviously, when I'm recruiting people and looking into, bringing new people in, the first step is to see, the first step actually is a cover letter and seeing how someone sells themselves. But also for me, which I think is actually the case for most companies, is to see that they know what they're applying for and they know the company as well. I always want to see at least a line. I mean, some people write whole paragraphs, and I do read them, but at least a line about Moving Waves and why they want to be part of this. I want to know that it's not someone just wanting a job and, I'm applying here, I'm applying there, because that's a bit of a waste of time, because, you end up spending a lot of time explaining and that's not the point. So I think the cover letter is very important, how you come across in that, if you're applying for a position as a facilitator or as a teacher, whatever you want to do. The next thing, I would see the background and experience. Definitely having a degree with, if you're going to do drama or dance, music, whatever you're applying to be a facilitator in, it's not about like the academic level of the degree. I don't personally, look so much if someone has an MA or PhD, as long as they have some sort of training. Because we are training people, even though what we're doing is all about skills development. It's still important to know that that person has some sort of training and they've experienced it from that perspective. And then, ideally you want someone with experience. But I have hired lots of people over the years who, haven't had so much experience, but they came across so nice in the interview. you want to see that you can work with someone, that they share the values, and there is a reason why they're doing it. And actually, I remember that a lot from your interview, because you came across so passionate about, facilitating. And I do remember that, actually. You said something, I don't remember the line, but you said something along the lines of, people say I do facilitating on the side, but I'm like, why do you see it as a side job and you don't see it as I'm paraphrasing it completely, but you did say something along those lines, and I thought that was quite inspiring. So yeah, I think those are, for me personally, important factors for taking someone in. But also, that's the reason we created this course. This course is not about training you to be a drama teacher or a dance teacher. You still need a bit of that background. But when I first got into it, I did have some facilitating background experience like you did, assisting here and there. But when I found myself in the room, like I said earlier, I realized I was thinking, how hard can it be? And then I got into the room and I was like, I don't know how to manage this class. Yeah. So this course that we've created is more about how to set the structures for behavior management, how to make your plan effective, how to keep engagement, how to think of different themes. It's all like DBS, all the paper stuff that you need to know before entering a school, safeguarding, different tips for working with children, which I think it creates a foundation. And I'm biased 100%, but I do recommend it because there's a lot of effort and, experience that has gone into this course. So it's all about installing that foundation into someone who comes from a drama degree, a dance degree, but they've never built that experience, those years of experience. At least if you take this course, you go into the room knowing what to expect and having those strategies down, and also you get lifetime access to it, so you can always go back if you're running out of ideas. But so a very long world question, but answer. But that's what I would say. And if you're looking to get into it, do have a look at the course as well. So since you've joined Moving Waves, you're both quite fresh into your Moving Waves journey, which is very exciting. And I can see you both, building up a lot of, hopefully a very wonderful journey with lots of work with us. What have been your best moments so far as facilitators for Moving Waves?
The last club that I did, it was a drama one, and we were leaving. I think maybe the second to last class from the term or something, and one of the kids, every time we would finish, they were like, "Oh, but is it over yet? Is it time to go home?" And I was like, "Yeah, it actually flies by." And we were leaving, and the kid went like, "I'm not going." And he was in the yard, and I was like, "No, but we need to." And I was like, "I'm not staying either. We need to go." And his dad was there. It's like, "No, I'm staying here, and so are you. And we're going to stay here all night, and we're going to keep doing this." And I was like, "No, we're not. I'm so sorry." Then I had to bring another kid back to reception, and then that kid stayed and refused to go home, hardcore refused to go home. And I just turned my back, and I saw the dad was begging him to go. So I found that really lovely, and I have another one that is very different to that, but I've told you about it. I think it was the first session I did at a care home, and I went in there and I had this super ambitious plan of I'm going to get through 100 things with these people, and it just didn't work out, and I was panicking. I was like, how do I deal with the situation? And then we managed it, we navigated it, and then at the end they all shared that they really like music. And so one of the women sang an Indian song for the rest of us. And it was such a beautiful thing, and I was so moved. And I was like, well, you did this for us, and I'm going to sing a Bulgarian song for you now. It's this super random thing that I have never, ever done in my life.
International.
Yeah, and I haven't rehearsed this performance in a care home. But I felt it in my heart, and I just started singing it. And at care homes, there is this, sometimes people are asleep, and sometimes, people are not that engaging. And I felt as soon as I started singing it, there was such an energy shift in the room, and it was not just like we're paying attention to the facilitator now, but it was this sort of openness and connection between just human
music
beings.
Music does connect, doesn't it? Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, so I had to listen to you all along because you wanted music, and that's what carries you. And that was such a beautiful moment, and I will never ever forget it. It literally gave me chills back then. I don't know if it makes sense now, but yeah.
Yeah, and I remember actually another time when you messaged me, I don't remember the details, but it was something like you had just finished your performance with a group or something, and you felt quite touched by it all. And
I
no,
do it all the time. I message
Okay.
you all the time saying, this went great. Yeah, I think it was a care home again, wasn't it?
I think it was a school club actually, but yeah, it's a bit vague in my memory. Maybe it was a few months back,
I'll
but
think about it.
yeah,
Yeah, maybe.
I'll find the email somewhere.
One sticks out to me that was fairly recent, as in like the start of the term that's just gone. It was a stand-up comedy class, and there's two sisters in that class, and one of them they'd been with me the term before as well, so I knew both of them, and one of them's got like a really grumpy face on, and the other one's the opposite, just like bouncing into the class, and I'm like, what's up with your sister? And she's like, oh, she hates stand-up comedy class. She hates this. I was like, oh, no, why does she hate it? She's like, I don't know, but I love it. I was like, okay, great. And so I got them doing their activity for the day, and then I go over and have a little chat with her. I was like, oh, heard you don't like stand-up comedy class. It's like, why is that? She's like, oh, I find it really boring. You know, I don't find myself funny, whatever. And I was like, encouraging. 2 weeks later, however, she comes up to me and goes, like, again, during the activity, she's like, pulls on my arm. She's like, Alex, Mr. Alex, they call me Mr. Alex. Mr. Alex. Well, she's like, I think I might want to be a stand-up comedian when I'm older.
Aw.
I'm like, oh, really? You've changed your tune? She's like, yeah, no, I think I've got what it takes. I'm like, yeah, I think you do too. And then the sort of the sketch that she wrote was one of the best ones in the class. Like, she was so good at it, and I was like, why? I don't know what. Maybe she was just having a down day or whatever, because there was no impression from the term before that she wasn't enjoying it or anything. She'd clearly like thought about it in between classes and like had clearly suddenly realized that, oh, I don't have to be amazing at it, and like as long as I'm having fun, then that's the thing. And now she thinks that being a stand-up comedian is just sort of writing jokes about snot, which maybe for some people
The niche.
yeah, so that was a nice moment for me of actually seeing a change that a specific one person has had, like from hating something to going, I want to do this for the rest of my life. Which is lovely feeling.
That's like down to you, I think, and you've
so.
showed them the ropes with it, which I think is great feedback.
The one that I needed to tell you about and that you mentioned earlier is my very first club, and the first lesson I was, again, and why am I panicking all the time? I was panicking because I was really struggling with authority. I was like, how do I tell you to be quiet, but also like me, because we're going to spend the rest of the time together. And at the end of the class, I had prepared envelopes that I was telling you about, and I made them write letters to themselves, to their future selves at the end of the club. It's like, what do you want to get out of the club? What are you hoping for? And they were all writing, and I wrote one to myself as well, and it was saying, Dear Gabi, I hope you survive this. I did it properly. Like, I closed it and I put it to all of the other envelopes, and I opened it at the end of the term, and I was like, I didn't need that. Yeah. I was fine. I just needed to believe a bit more in myself. And then I did read all of their letters because I needed to like know where they are at. And I told you, like, it's just a bit of a sneak peek into how they're feeling, because we say children have no filter, and sometimes they don't. They're really direct, but also they can hide these insecurities. I don't think I'm a good enough stand-up comedian. I don't think I'm funny enough, and I don't think I'm beautiful enough. And it's insane how early these thoughts start.
Much earlier than they should. I mean, they should never. But
it's like, how are you so insecure about being funny and beautiful? You are all of these things naturally, but you're too young to think that. I do love that exercise though, the future letter to yourself. I think that's really powerful. And then for them to see that as well at the end, and just to see how far they've come and what they've achieved, I think that's such a big moment, definitely. Love it.
Might try that.
Yeah, go for it. I do it every single club I've done it. Yeah. And they always ask about the letters. I'm like, when are we opening? I was like, the last class,
Yeah.
Do they get to open them and
they
discuss with
open
each other?
No,
Or?
I say like, you're the only person who's ever going to read this.
Right.
Because, like, I was like, you don't have to show it to your parents, you don't have to show it to anyone, it's just for you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. Oh, I really like that. So we spoke about the challenges in the beginning and then the best moments we've had so far. So if we were to conclude our conversation about what you need to know before taking the leap. So is it worth it? And what are the important things for someone to know who's about to take that leap of going into freelancing, becoming a facilitator without necessarily coming from the teaching or facilitating background? So 2 questions. Is it worth it? And what are the top things to think about?
Yes, it is definitely worth it. 100%. Like the as Gabi said before, the pros are far, there's far more of them than cons. There's, and the cons are barely even cons. We just came up with it because we felt like, we had to. But yeah, so definitely, and you don't know until you try, I think, and you'll also get a respect for seeing teachers and going like, oh yeah, I get it now. I get how hard it is.
Yeah.
But why you do it? Like, why would anyone put up with the lows if the cons weren't? Wait, what? Why would you put up with the downs if the ups weren't so worth it? So yeah, that's mine.
Oh, that's lovely.
Absolutely.
Nice.
I really agree with that. I really believe in the saying that it takes a whole village to raise a child.
Yeah.
So really, to be part of this for someone is so special. And I'm going to cherish having that opportunity for the rest of my life. And I'm going to keep it for as long as I can, selfishly enough. I think a piece of advice would be find a good team that you like working with. I love working for you. And I'm not saying it because I have to, I don't. But I loved all the people that I got recruited with. I still use one of your games from our induction in my classes.
Oh, great.
It's the stepping into the
picture frame,
one.
yeah? Oh, yeah.
I'm doing this game
great.
from you. And all the socials that we have, I love... one of your facilitators has my book right now. And it's just this sort of thing, like, we are a community, and I think it's so important in order to do your best work to find the people that you can do that best work with. And that take out this really good side of you, because you believed in me before having, like, a long CV of facilitation experience, because I didn't. And you believed in it, and you saw that in me, and that passion. I think is just have that passion and keep it, and really keep it ignited. Never forget why you started doing it.
Spark your
all the
spark.
time. Yeah, just let yourself be curious and let yourself learn all the time. There is no end version of you as a facilitator. I mean, there's no end version of you.
Person.
Yeah.
There's no end version of you being as a person. So why would there be one of you as a facilitator? It's an ongoing thing. It's a never-ending process of learning.
Yeah, exactly. Wow, I think that's
a good one. That actually.
Yeah, it's a lovely.
There's no end goal. Like, you won't reach it because it's not possible.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing this for 13, 14 years, and I'm still learning, still like finding new things to try, and it never runs out. You do go through creative blocks at points where you're like, okay, I've done this like so many times. I need to be a bit more creative, but you are constantly learning and finding ways. And yeah, that's very important to remember. That's a very good point. For me, one of the best moments, it's something that happens every year when we do our academy show at the end of, in the summer. And you get to see all these children from when they were, when they started in September or at whichever point they started. You get to see them on stage, loving life, just, growing from this shy or a bit unsure about performing on stage young person, to just being into this confident performer, dancing with a big smile, acting, remembering the words, whatever show they're taking part in. For me, that is so powerful. And then seeing the celebration in the end, and just seeing everyone being happy to be there, even though they've just performed in front of 300 people. Because I suppose there's a big part of the work that I do, the teaching work, is at the academy, so I get to see them throughout the year. So this has been one of my best moments, and I think it does, and I always look forward to every summer as well. But it does sum up everything that you've both covered today, that we've all discussed. It's a constant learning process. Every year it gets better, for example, the show or the teaching or whatever we're doing. And it's definitely worth it because you get to see the journey of the child or the adult, whoever you're working with. And you get to relive your passion and just see your creative ideas coming into life and transforming someone and installing the skills that are so important for life. So it's definitely worth it. And there's so many good moments, and 100% agree that the good times outweigh the bad times. And there are ways to get through the bad times as well, like we shared earlier.
Cool.
So on that note, thank you so much for joining again, and we'll see you at the next episode. Bye.